Good morning everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the parotid gland under the following headings. Parotid mold, shape and size of the parotid gland, what are the coverings of the parotid gland, presenting parts of parotid gland, what are the processes, what are the structures passing through the gland. We will also discuss about the parotid duct, which is also known as the Stenson's duct, its blood supply, lymphatic drainage, nerve supply and clinical anatomy related to the parotid gland. Parotid gland is present in the parotid region. Parotid region, it is a facial lined space which forms the mold or bed for the parotid gland. The parotid mold, it is bounded in front by the posterior border of the ramus of mandible along with the masseter outside, medial pterygoid inside attached to the ramus and temporomandibular joint. Posteriorly, it is bounded by the mastoid process and the sternocleidomastoid attached on the mastoid process. Above, it is bounded by the external acoustic meatus and the posterior part of the temporomandibular joint. Below, it is bounded by the posterior belly of the digastric, which is attached here along with the stylohyoid muscle arising from the styloid process, and medially it is bounded by the styloid process and the styloid group of muscles. Parotid gland is largest of the three paired salivary glands. Each parotid gland is inverted pyramid in shape. So the apex is directed downwards and the base is directed upwards. Each parotid gland, it weighs around 25 grams. Parotid gland is invested by inner true capsule and outer false capsule. True capsule is formed by the condensation of the fibrous stroma of the gland, whereas the false capsule, which is also known as the parotid sheath, it is formed by the splitting of the investing layer of deep cervical fascia. False capsule or the parotid sheath, it is formed by the splitting of the investing layer of deep cervical fascia. So after splitting, there is a superficial lamina and a deep lamina. The superficial lamina of the sheath is stronger. It is attached to the lower border of the zygomatic arch and blends with the epimysium of the masseter muscle to form a thick parotidomasseteric fascia. The deep lamella is thinner. It is attached to the tympanic plate and the styloid process of the temporal bone, and it is thickened to form the stylomandibular ligament. This ligament extends from the tip of the styloid process to the angle of mandible and separates the parotid gland from the submandibular glands. Parotid gland, it presents an apex or the lower end which is directed downwards, a base or a upper surface, three surfaces, superficial surface, anteromedial surface, posteromedial surface, and three borders, anterior, posterior and medial. Let's first see the apex. So the apex is directed below. It overlaps the posterior belly of the digastric and appears in the carotid triangle. Structures passing through the apex are cervical branch of the facial nerve, anterior division of retromandibular vein which unites with the facial vein and forms the common facial vein, posterior division of the retromandibular vein along with the posterior auricular vein, it unites to form the external jugular vein. The base is directed upwards, it is concave, it is related to the external acoustic meatus and the posterior part of temporomandibular joint. Structures passing through the base are temporal branch of facial nerve, superficial temporal vessels, auriculotemporal nerve. Anterior border is thin. It rests on the masseter and separates the superficial from the anteromedial surface. The structures radiating deep to this border are as follows from above downwards. Zygomatic branch of facial nerve, transverse facial vessels, upper buccal branch of facial nerve, accessory parotid gland and its duct if present, parotid duct, lower buccal branch of facial nerve and marginal mandibular branch of the facial nerve. Posterior border, it rests on the sternomastoid muscle. posterior auricular branch of facial nerve and posterior auricular vessels, they passes upward and backward beneath this border, that is the posterior border. This is a specimen of the parotid gland. We are placing it on the skull for better understanding. So if you see here, this becomes the base, which is concave. It is directed upwards and it is in relation with the external acoustic meatus and the posterior part of the temporomandibular joint. This is the apex, which is directed downwards. It overlaps the posterior belly of the digastric and appears in the carotid triangle. This is parotid duct. So this will become the anterior border. The opposite, this is the posterior border. This surface which we see, it is the superficial surface or the lateral surface. So this is right sided parotid gland. Now if I remove the parotid gland, then we will see something like this, right? So this surface which you see, it is present like this and it is grooved. This groove which you see here, this is grooved by the presence of the ramus of the mandible. So this entire is the anteromedial surface. This becomes the medial border or the pharyngeal border, and this entire is the posteromedial surface, which is in relation with the styloid process and the structures attached to the styloid process. Now let's take a look at the specimen of the parotid gland separately. You can see that it is inverted pyramid in shape. Base is directed upwards, which is concave in shape. Presenting parts of the parotid gland includes apex, which is directed downwards, appears in the carotid triangle, overlaps the posterior belly of the digastric. Base is directed upwards, which is concave, coming in contact with external acoustic meatus, posterior part of the temporomandibular joint. Parotid gland is having three surfaces and three borders: superficial surface, anteromedial surface, posteromedial surface, anterior border, posterior border and medial border. This surface which we see here, this is the superficial surface or the lateral surface. Superficial surface is separated from the anteromedial surface by anterior border. So this is the anterior border from which we are able to see the parotid duct. Superficial surface is separated from the posteromedial surface by the posterior border, and anteromedial surface and posteromedial surface, they are separated from each other by medial border, which is also known as the pharyngeal border because this comes in contact with the wall of the pharynx. So these are the three borders: anterior border, posterior border and medial border. Three surfaces: superficial surface, anteromedial surface and posteromedial surface. Now let's take a look to the parotid gland in situ. This is apex, which is directed downwards. This apex that overlaps the posterior belly of the digastric. We have not opened the neck skin, so we will see that when we open the posterior triangle and the anterior triangle. But this is the apex which is directed downwards. This entire is the anterior border, and this surface which you see, this surface, right, viewing from the lateral side, this surface becomes the superficial surface. So the superficial surface is covered from outside to inside. First will be the skin, then there is superficial fascia, then posterior fibers of the platysma, and this is parotid sheath. This layer which you see enclosing the parotid gland, this is known as the parotid fascia, or you can call it parotid sheath. The superficial fascia covering the lateral surface of the parotid gland, it contains parotid group of lymph nodes and great auricular nerve. This is great auricular nerve which is supplying the skin over the angle of the mandible. Right, so it is present in the superficial fascia covering the lateral surface of the parotid gland. What else you can see in situ? This is the base of the parotid gland, which is related to the external acoustic meatus and the TM joint, but we can't see the temporomandibular joint here, but it is related here. It is concave upwards and from the base of the parotid gland are emerging three structures. This is temporal branch of facial nerve, right? This is temporal branch of facial nerve. So many branches are going. This is superficial temporal vessels. You can see that the superficial temporal vessels, it is going upward and it is dividing into two branches. This is anterior branch or the frontal branch, and one is going posteriorly. This is the parietal branch. As you note here, the superficial temporal vessels, they are superficial to the temporal fascia. This is the temporal fascia. Lying deep to the temporal fascia is temporalis muscle. Between the superficial temporal vessels and the auricle, you can see one nerve emerging. This is your auriculotemporal nerve. So from the base of the parotid gland, three structures are emerging out. This is your temporal branch of facial nerve. This is superficial temporal vessels and auriculotemporal nerve. This is the anterior border of the parotid gland. Structures emerging from the parotid gland are, first is zygomatic branch of the facial nerve. Now after reflecting, we can see the structures clearly. This is zygomatic branch of facial nerve. Between the zygomatic branch of facial nerve and upper buccal branch, you can see one artery. This is transverse facial artery or vessels, right? Transverse facial vessels. So from above downwards, zygomatic branch of facial nerve, transverse facial vessels, upper buccal branch, parotid duct. Along with the parotid duct, sometimes there is presence of accessory parotid gland and its duct. Lower buccal branch, just below the parotid duct, and marginal mandibular branch of facial nerve. So these branches are emerging out of the anterior border of parotid gland. This is the superficial surface or lateral surface. This is apex. This becomes the base. This is the anterior border. Now if I reflect this anterior border, here you can see this is masseter, right? So resting on the masseter, one part of the parotid gland, this is your anteromedial surface. This surface which you see inside, right, this is anteromedial surface of the parotid gland. So anterior border basically is separating the superficial surface from the anteromedial surface, and this anteromedial surface is resting on masseter like this. Fine. So to see the anteromedial surface, you need to reflect the anterior border. This is the transverse section of the parotid gland to show the relation of the deeper surface. This is the anteromedial surface which is related to the ramus of the mandible. It is grooved by the posterior border of the ramus of mandible with the masseter attached on outside, medial pterygoid attached on the inside. Outer lip of this groove, it transmits the facial nerve and its branches. This is the lateral or the superficial surface. This entire posteromedial surface, it is related to the mastoid process with the sternocleidomastoid muscle, posterior belly of the digastric, styloid process and the styloid group of muscles attached on it, internal carotid artery, internal jugular vein, 9, 10, 11, 12 cranial nerves in between, transverse process of the atlas and rectus capitis lateralis. Facial nerve, after emerging from the stylomastoid foramen, it enters the parotid gland. It enters the parotid gland, piercing the upper part of this surface. So the facial nerve, it enters the parotid gland from the posteromedial surface. And external carotid artery, it lodges in a groove on its lower part before the artery pierces the gland. This is external carotid artery. Posterior border rests on the sternomastoid muscle. Medial border is also known as the pharyngeal border. Structures within the parotid gland from outside to inside are basically three. From outside, facial nerve, then next is retromandibular vein, and innermost is the external carotid artery. The facial nerve, after emerging from the stylomastoid foramen, it enters the parotid gland, piercing the posteromedial surface. Within the gland, the nerve runs forward for another 1 centimeter, superficial to retromandibular vein and external carotid artery, and then divides into temporofacial and cervicofacial trunk. Temporofacial passes upwards and subdivides into temporal and zygomatic branches. Cervicofacial passes downward and gives buccal, marginal mandibular, and cervical branches. These 5 terminal branches radiate like the goose foot from the anterior border of the gland and supply the facial muscles. Hence, such branching pattern is known as pes anserinus. Parotid gland is divided into superficial and deep parts or the lobes by the branches of the facial nerve. These lobes are connected by the isthmus of the glandular tissue so that the gland appears H-shaped in a coronal section. The branches of the nerve lies in the middle layer of the parotid sandwich, and this subdivision helps the surgeon to remove a parotid tumor, leaving the nerve intact, which is known as Pettis faciovenous plane. Intermediate zone is occupied by the retromandibular vein, which is formed by the union of the superficial temporal vein and the maxillary vein. Retromandibular vein, it ends below by dividing into anterior and posterior division. Anterior division joins with the facial vein to form the common facial vein, whereas the posterior division, it joins with the posterior auricular vein to form the external jugular vein. External carotid artery occupies the deepest zone and it ascends up and divides into terminal branches, that is superficial temporal and maxillary artery. Transverse facial artery, it is a branch of superficial temporal, emerges through the anterior border of the gland. Sometimes the posterior auricular artery arises within the gland from the external carotid artery. So from outside to inside, it is facial nerve, retromandibular vein and external carotid artery. Since the parotid gland is present on the parotid mold, it presents some extensions beyond the parotid mold which are known as the processes of the gland. There is one facial process which is extending forward superficial to the masseter along the parotid duct, accessory parotid gland and its duct. It is a small part of facial process which is detached from the main gland and it is situated between the zygomatic arch and the parotid duct. Next process is the pterygoid process. Sometimes a triangular process, it extends forwards between the mandibular ramus and the medial pterygoid muscle. Another is the glenoid process, which is between the external meatus and the capsule of the temporomandibular joint. And last is the pre and the post styloid process. Styloid process lodges in a groove and the gland in front of the groove is pre-styloid and behind the groove forms the post-styloid process. Parotid duct, which is also known as the Stenson's duct, it is about 5 cm in length and 3 mm in width. It is formed within the gland by the union of the two vertical ducts. The duct finally emerges to the anterior border of the gland and passes at front forward on the masseter muscle between the upper and the lower buccal nerves. At the anterior border of the masseter, it turns abruptly medially, passing through the buccal pad of fat, piercing the buccopharyngeal fascia and the buccinator muscle. Finally, the duct passes obliquely forward between the buccinator and the mucous membrane of the cheek and opens in the vestibule of the mouth on a papilla opposite the crown of the upper second molar tooth. In this diagram, you can see the opening of the parotid duct in the vestibule of the mouth on a papilla opposite the crown of the upper second molar tooth. The passage of the parotid duct, that is having oblique course, and the oblique course of the submucosal part of the parotid duct, it acts as a valve and it prevents inflation of the duct during the violent blowing. Arteries supplying the parotid gland, they are derived from the branches of the external carotid artery, and the veins, they drain into the tributaries of the external jugular vein. Lymph from the parotid gland, it drains into superficial and deep groups of parotid lymph nodes. The efferent vessels from these nodes, they terminate into the jugulo-digastric group of deep cervical lymph nodes. The secretomotor supply to the parotid gland, it is derived from the sympathetic fibers as well as the parasympathetic fibers. The stimulation of the parasympathetic fibers that will produce watery secretion from the gland, whereas the stimulation of the sympathetic fibers that will produce mucus rich sticky secretion, as well as it will provide the vasomotor supply to the gland. The sympathetic supply to the gland, it reaches around the external carotid artery, and they convey the postganglionic fibers from the superior cervical ganglion of the sympathetic trunk. The preganglionic parasympathetic fibers, they arises from the inferior salivatory nucleus of the medulla and passes successively through the tympanic branch of the glossopharyngeal nerve, tympanic plexus, lesser petrosal nerve, and relay into the cells of the otic ganglion. The postganglionic fibers, they arises from the ganglion, passes through the auriculotemporal nerve and reaches the gland. Mumps is a viral infection of the salivary glands. The swollen glands, they do not suppurate. Parotid abscess is drained by Hilton's method, wherein a small horizontal incision is placed in order to avoid injury to the branches of the facial nerve. Sometimes what happens, the penetrating wound of the parotid gland, it damages the auriculotemporal nerve and the great auricular nerve. Now, during the process of the healing, the secretomotor fibers of the auriculotemporal nerve, they grow out and join with the distal end of the great auricular nerve, through which the fibers are reaching the sweat glands in the facial skin. Therefore, what happens when the patient eats, beads of the perspiration, they appear on the skin covering the parotid gland, because the stimulus which is intended for the salivary secretion, now it produces sweat secretion instead. Such an interesting complication during the healing of the penetrating wound of the parotid gland is known as Frei's syndrome. This syndrome is very rare. During parotidectomy, the facial nerve is preserved by removing the glands in two parts, that is superficial and deep. The plane of the cleavage, that is defined by tracing the nerve from behind forwards, that is the Patty's faciovenous plane. Sialography is the radiological examination of the salivary gland, wherein a contrast medium is injected into the duct of a single salivary gland, and it is followed by the routine X-ray projections, and the resulting X-ray is known as sialogram. This procedure is to detect the blockage of the salivary flow due to the presence of a stricture or a stone.